Hello. Happy International Women's Day. How are you? It is International Women's Day today, March 8th, and that is actually the thing that inspired me to want to pop on today and chat with you for a few minutes. So, if you're joining, this is streaming in multiple places. Say hello. Let me know where you're from. I'm always interested in seeing who's listening, or if you watch the replay later. And this will be an episode of the UnConditioned Life podcast that you can find on wherever you listen to podcasts. But today's episode is particularly about, the idea of Wonder Woman. And actually, is it Wonder Woman or is it Wounded Woman? So as I said, I was inspired to hop on and have this conversation with you because today is International Women's Day. And I had posted something earlier today and somebody responded to it. And she said something like, paraphrasing her words, I'm trying to let Wonder Woman go because, she's struggling with her health and stress and overwhelm and health issues. So she said, I'm struggling to let Wonder Woman go so that I can get better. And so my response to her, and then I thought, this is a really good conversation. Hi, Jane. Oh, hi, Jane. I thought this is a really good conversation to have, is that my definition, when I was saying we all have a Wonder Woman inside of us, my definition is very different than hers, because hers was, the woman who gets it all done. And she had been that for her family. Her kids are grown now, but for raising children and working and all of that, her, definition, or the way that she was to do it all, to provide for everybody, to get it all done. And I've been called Wonder Woman in my life, like especially when my daughter was alive and, working, raising another child, taking care of her. People are like, you're a Wonder Woman. So we have this concept that being a Wonder Woman or a superhero is the person who, just does it all and gets it all done and is so amazing with what they handle. But here's the thing, and I'll speak about myself rather than anybody else. Here's the thing. When we are doing that, most of the time, sometimes it's just necessity, right? Especially if you're like a single mom and you've got to do it all. But most of the time, what's driving that is not a Wonder Woman mentality or a Wonder Woman consciousness. It's actually a codependent, wounded woman that is driving a life that looks like that. So just, take a step back and just sort of with curiosity, listen to this and see what you think about it. But when I say codependent, that's actually a codependent, wounded woman instead of a Wonder Woman. A codependent woman or person, but we're talking about women today. So a codependent person or woman is someone who is dependent upon something from outside of themselves, another person, usually another person, sometimes it's even God, something outside themselves in order to feel like they're okay. So they depend on getting acknowledgement. They depend on making sure that the judgment out there, they're being judged appropriately, they get their acknowledgement, or they need help in their life. So there's a spectrum of dependency. Codependency is, inappropriately, I'm having trouble talking today, inappropriately needing someone outside of yourself for help to do your life, or you're in the way you are intertwined with their energy. You're just intertwined with each other without having appropriate boundaries, needing their acknowledgement to feel okay about yourself. That's one end of the spectrum. The opposite end of the spectrum is independence. That's the person or woman who says, no, I got it. Nope. I'm doing it all. I got it. I'm independent. I can handle this. I don't need anybody, like that. And interdependent would be a happy balance of, I bring great things to the table, so do you. Let's both share what our unique gifts are and share our life together, knowing that we are fully and wholly fine in and of ourselves, and it makes us enjoy life more to have a partnership together. That's like interdependentship. So to my mind, that's like the middle of that. So the wounded codependent woman is someone who is looking for that outside acknowledgement or looking to show up in the world in a particular way so that she knows she's okay. And that comes from being wounded. That comes from somewhere learning that she's not okay. Because truthfully, we are all okay. We are born into this life absolutely perfect just as we are. Even if we have a disability, even if we have shortcomings, because obviously no one is actually perfect, but whatever we have, that we are perfect just as we are. Somewhere she forgot that. Somewhere she learned she's not. And in order to overcome that pain of that and the wounding of that, she's now doing all these things. So it might be in the way that she looks, like a drivenness. I have to be the skinny one all the time. I have to be the one that always looks put together. I have to be the one who's, my house could be in house beautiful and I've got this amazing home cooked meal and I look great while I'm doing it. And like, look at all of the things, kind of like, the trophies like that. That's one way it could look. It could also look like the martyr. Somebody who is, I have to do it all myself. I'm the one who gets it done. This is all on me, that kind of thinking. And that person, that woman, let's stick with women, that woman gets her badge of honor from being a martyr. So it's different than the first example, but it's still also wounded because there's that need to be acknowledged or lack of self-love present so that I'm doing all these things to show that I'm worthy. If I knew that I was worthy inherently in my soul and in my heart, I would not need to do all those things and to make sure that I'm doing all those things. So that's an important piece of that. It's not just doing the things, but it's also making sure everybody in your life knows you do all the things. That's part of the martyr piece of that. So that's woundedness, codependent woundedness. What was the other example I gave in the post? The person who does everything for everybody, the person who is always out in front of everybody's life, figuring out what's the possible problem. If you're, and a lot of this has to do with raising our children, because while they're young, we are responsible for them. But sometimes we never figure out how to shut it off, or we never stop doing that, and which doesn't really allow them to get their lessons and to be on their journey. But it would be the person who's always out in front, like, I don't know, I thought of that. That's going to be a potential problem here. I've got the solution. No, we need to think about this over here. Like, always out in front, figuring out the problem. When you need to always figure out what the problem is, it's because you're living in a place of fear. You're living in a place of there always are problems. And you may be listening to this conversation right now going, yeah, there are. And that's if you see life as problems. I don't see life as problems. And I've lost a daughter. So that's probably one of the biggest problems that anybody could use as an example. I've lost a daughter and I don't see life as a problem. I don't even see having lost her as a problem. So it's your view of the world and the consciousness that you live in. Is it from a place of fear, or is it from a place of trust? Is it from a place of knowing I will be okay no matter what happens? I will be okay no matter what happens. That's the trust. That's standing in solid ground of who you are. To me, that's a Wonder Woman, as opposed to I'm always going to be so in tune with the problems that I'll have the solutions. That's, like, as I said, living in fear. That's not, in my mind and in my definition, really being a Wonder Woman. So I don't know if this is resonating with you, if you have anything you'd like to say about it, but for International Women's Day, I just thought it would be something worth thinking about. What is your definition of what makes a woman a Wonder Woman, a superhero in her own life? What makes a woman somebody who is that you gravitate towards because when you're around them, you feel a sense of peace, you feel a sense of being heard, you don't feel like there's competition, right? A lot of times with women in our culture, there's so much competition. But a Wonder Woman is so okay with who she is, you don't feel competition around her. You're not going to be in her presence and think, sizing each other up. It's just not there. It's just not in the space between you. So to me, that's another example of a Wonder Woman. So someone who's not competing with other women, someone who is rock solid, someone who brings a sense of peace and trust to the space, as opposed to a sense of problems. Jane says, finding and being herself and loving who she is. Exactly, Jane. Exactly. Yep. When we're so busy being codependent and coping with our woundedness, we can't find ourselves. So I'll read it again. Jane says, finding and being herself and loving who she is. You can't take the time, or you don't even have access to finding who you are when you're stuck in patterns of codependentness, because they're just automatically going. In fact, this morning, if you follow me at all, I often do morning coffee conversations while I'm having my first mug early in the morning. And today's was about that, having an automatic, I think it was today, it seems so long ago, might have been yesterday, but an automatic machinery that drives you. And it's that automatic machinery of coping with whatever wounded you and showing up in the way that you think others want you to be, or so that you'll feel acknowledged and accepted. That's the codependency. So that automatic machinery kicks in, and then that's how your day goes every day, day after day, like automatic. Am I doing the right things? Am I getting the accolades? Am I coping so that I don't feel the pain that wounded me way back when? And then you don't have time or energy to find out who you are. And here's another thing, while we're on the subject, is loving who you are requires feeling your emotions and being willing to feel your emotions. And especially as women, we have learned that we're going to shove some emotions down. Maybe society says, oh, there's that hysterical woman, or, you've heard things like a woman can't be president because she'd cry, when things got tough or whatever. So women have gotten, and people just sort of feel like emotions need to be pushed to the side. But here's what I want you to think of. Imagine you had a giant beach ball, right? A really big beach ball, and you had to hold it under the water and keep it under the water. Uh-oh. Hush. If you're holding that beach ball down under the water, that takes a tremendous amount of energy. That's your emotions. Let's say that beach ball, let's call that beach ball anger, or another beach ball sadness, or another beach ball resentment, or shame. That would be an even bigger beach ball. And you're holding that beach ball under the water. The energy that it takes to keep that ball under the water takes away from all the energy in the rest of your life. It takes away from your immune system. It takes away from being present and vibrant in your relationships. It takes away from you having the energy to love yourself and to know who you are. So, my definition of Wonder Woman, let me just circle back to the whole point of the conversation and then I'll let you get on with your evening. But my definition is a woman who has evolved and expanded, because that's what our life journey is. We're not born, with those skills or understanding that or even knowing it. And we're born into a society where we just look around and we follow what everybody else does and what we're taught in our households. But when a person or a woman decides to expand beyond that and to dig deeper and expand and question without judgment, discernment, yes, discerning and judging are two different things. So using discernment, but not judging. Questioning with discernment and curiosity and compassion for herself, for the people who raised her, even if being raised was very painful. But discernment and compassion and curiosity about all of that, that's what gets a woman closer to the superhero for herself and her life, to being Wonder Woman. Much closer than doing all the things, trying to be perfect, worrying about what other people think, shoving down our emotions, all the things that we talked about. So I wish you a great rest of your evening. I would love to see what your comments are. I'll go back and look because this is streaming in multiple places, so I'll definitely check it out. And again, this is a podcast episode, so I have a podcast called The UnConditioned Life, which is really about releasing the conditioning, and not living from a place that's conditioned and automatic and machinery, but from a place of expansion and possibility and open-heartedness and vulnerability. So those are the things I like to talk about. So The UnConditioned Life is the podcast episode if you wanted to catch other episodes. The podcast name, if you want to catch other episodes. So I will wish you a great night and a happy International Women's Day. And I'm sure I'll see you over a cup of coffee again sometime this week. So thanks for listening, and I look forward to reading your comments. Take care.